Minutes.
Madam Chair, I rise today to offer a common sense amendment to H.R. 4745. The Gingrey-Bridenstine amendment would prohibit funds in the underlying bill from being used to pay a federal employee for any period of time that such an employee is using official time. As the author of H.R. 107, the Federal Employee Accountability Act, this amendment is a continuation of the work I've done over the last three Congresses to repeal the government-wide use of official time. Under current law, federal employees can use official, taxpayer-funded time to perform union functions or to participate in union activities when they would otherwise be on official duty status. Madam Chair, according to a FOIA request by the Americans for Limited Government, there are 35 employees at the Department of Transportation alone, making an average, by the way, of almost $140,000 a year, who spend 100% of their workday working on behalf of a union. These employees were hired to perform duties on behalf of the taxpayer. Several are engineers or air traffic controllers, yet they are working exclusively for the union at the taxpayer's expense. In fiscal year 11, the most recent year for which we have official time data, the Department of Transportation spent more than $17 million on official time. In the same year, the Department of Housing and Urban Development spent more than $2 million on official time. Across the entire federal government, more than 3 million official time hours were used in collective bargaining or arbitration of grievances against an employer, who, by the way, is us, in fiscal year 11. These union activities were performed at taxpayer expense to the tune of $155 million for the same time period. While we are not voting on veterans funding today, it is timely, given recent events, to mention the impact that the use of official time has on the Department of Veterans Affairs. The VA is one of the largest abusers of official time, spending more than $42.5 million on this cost in fiscal year 11. In 2012, more than 250 VA employees worked 100% of their day for the union, rather than working on behalf of our nation's heroes. Over 100 of those same employees were healthcare professionals, including nurses, technicians, and mental health therapists. In the wake of the nationwide scandal at the VA, it is unthinkable that employees there are allowed to work on behalf of the union rather than focusing on serving our veterans. It's particularly shocking that the use of official time by medical professionals and others at the VA continues when the VA claims shortage of health care professionals is what's contributing to the problems, like the long wait list for people that are suicidal because of traumatic brain injury and post-traumatic stress syndrome. Madam Chair, we must demand accountability at the VA and across government to ensure that civil servants are focusing on their positions of record, not serving unions at our expense, at taxpayer expense. That's why standalone legislation I have introduced, H.R. 107, would repeal the government-wide use of official time, saving over $1.5 billion over 10 years. While we are not considering my standalone legislation on the floor today, I'm proud to offer this amendment as a small step toward reining in the use and abuse of official time. Simply put, a federal employee hired to work as an air traffic controller should spend his or her time at work performing his or her duties as an air traffic controller, not serving as a taxpayer-funded union official. Madam Chair, I want to make it very clear that I'm not proposing to do away with unions. However, I am working diligently to increase the efficiency of the federal workforce. This amendment limits federal activity during normal business hours to simply working, not carrying out union activities. We should not be forcing taxpayers to support private and often very politically active organizations. Federal employees should spend their days performing the duties for which taxpayers hired them at $140,000 a year. While families all over the nation are tightening their belts and cutting their own spending, it should not be the practice of the federal government to allow expensive special interest handouts, Rather, the federal government should be reining in its spending and looking for ways to save money and function more efficiently. This amendment is an important first step, and I urge my colleagues to support the Gingrey-Bridenstine amendment